Well, welcome to your very first NYCP Data Collection Extension Talking Circle. So we appreciate all of you joining today. We have a lot of great information to share with you. As we get started, we'll go ahead and share our disclaimer. This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. So today we're going to be talking about your APR updates, upcoming budget revisions. We're going to have some time for all of you to share about how your projects are going, particularly as we launch a new school year. And then we also want to have some conversation around some of the DCE program requirements and your understanding of them, our understanding of them, and how we can best support you in them. As we get started, though, I do want to stop sharing just so that I know, Donna, you were able to say hello, but I didn't know if you wanted to kick off welcoming, and then we can hop into everyone's favorite topic, reporting.
Woohoo! Yes. Thank you again. Thanks everybody for taking the time to join us today. Seems like this is way overdue, and we are happy to finally be able to provide you the technical assistance for this grant. And it unfortunately plopped right in the middle of COVID. So I know that there's a lot of catching up, a lot of questions, and we're coming up actually on the final year of the program with a lot to do. So we want to make sure that we're connecting with all of you. And this is the one of many to come. And if there are topics that you would like to know more about or would like us to discuss here, this is for you. And while we do offer office hours, open office hours once a month, we try to have these every couple of months every other month or something like that, but happy to do it as often as needed. So if there's a certain topic that you want to run and get past ideas with other grantees, this is the place to do it. So this is for sharing, it's for learning, it's for venting, it's for you. So if there's anything that you need in particular, please don't hesitate to ask us and our TA team with Sarah and company and Alani, and they're great and they keep me grounded. So I'm sure they'll help too. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah. Thanks.
Well, and actually, I'll take a minute. I'd just like to do some introductions around the room as well, because this is y'all's first time getting together as grantees, and we're a small group. There are 5 DCE grantees. So I'll just kind of call on you as I see you on my screen. If you're able to unmute and share, who you are, what project you work with, and your role on that project, fabulous. If you are not able to unmute and share, maybe you're somewhere in a shared space, feel free to pop it in the chat box when I get to you as well. All right, so first on my screen, I see Leanne.
Hello, my name is Leanne Ferreira. I work for Cook Inlet Tribal Council. I'm overseeing the Journey Ahead Data Collections Grant for my department, and I'm very new to grants and managing grants, and so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. And then next up is Jennifer.
Good morning. I also work with CITC, and I am the Senior Director of Education and Innovation here. And so I'm helping to work with our leadership team on the grants that are funded out of this program.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. And I'm going to stick with the CITC theme and move over to Pachi.
Good morning. I'm glad you said Pachi, thanks, because I typed in there Platinita is my legal name. I'm also CITC, I'm a manager, and I work with Passages. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. All right, and let's head over to Oklahoma with Glinda.
Hi, I'm Glinda Sellers. I'm in Tahlequah, Oklahoma with Grandview School and Do Your Best NYCP grant. I'm a project specialist working on the grant.
Thanks, Glinda.
Thank
And
you.
then also with Grandview, we'll head over to Mindy.
Hi, I'm Mindy Laddie, and I am listening in today for Margaret Carlisle. She's our director. She couldn't be here today, but I work in federal programs with her, and glad to be here.
Thanks, Mindy. And we'll stick with Oklahoma, but we'll switch grantees and go to Michael.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Pavel. I'm a consultant with TEDNA, the Tribal Education Department's National Assembly. And the director there is Quentin Romanos. And I'd just like to add, I think we're in a position now of presenting some early findings of some of the research that we've been conducting, meaning I think TEDNA would be considered possibly a year ahead of the other programs. And we put in a request, I believe that's got approved, to get on track. And as part of this introduction, I'd like to share that I will be presenting some of the results at TEDNA's annual conference as part of the upcoming NIEA conference. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you're at. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think almost everybody is morning except for Donna. Donna's the only one who's in the afternoon. I think all of us, the rest of us are all in time zones where it's morning still. For some, quite early. All right, and last but not least, we have Scott.
Yuki, my name is Scott Azeltine. I'm the education director for the Karuk tribe in Northern California, and I'm the grant manager for this project. I'm sorry, I'm the project director, not the grant manager.
You know, you can be both.
Yeah. All
right. And then to kind of wrap up all of our introductions, and so you can meet the rest of our team, I'll let Alani introduce herself as well.
Aloha, I am Olani. I'm part of the OIE Technical Assistance Team. I'm just glad to see everyone this morning.
All right. So like I said, I just want to do a few introductions so that y'all can start to get to know all of us and you can get to know all of each other. Because with such a small cohort, just 5 grantees, I think it's nice to be able to have a little peer-to-peer chat as well. So we'll hop back in though and cover some of our other information. As we're going through, feel free at any point, if you have questions, unmute and ask, pop it in the chat, completely fine. You know, the time together is not that formal that we can't stop for questions. So as we're talking about APR updates, all of you completed your first annual performance report last spring. And now that it's fall, it's time to potentially submit an APR update. So how do you know if you should be submitting an APR update? You're going to look at your section A. If you reported 999 for some or all of the measures in section A of your APR, should you submit an APR update? And you can unmute and vote. You can put it in the chat. What do you think? If you reported 999 in that quantitative section of section A, do you do an APR update or no? Anyone fathom a guess? Okay, Pachi says yes, and she is right. Yeah, if you submitted 999 on any of your measures, you're going to be submitting an APR update. As remember, 999 was code for, I don't have the data right now, but I will have it by the end of the grant year. And the end of the grant year is the end of September. So you will be submitting an APR update. Next up, if you notice that you submitted an incorrect number or a number that needs to be changed in section A, will you need to do an APR update or no? Is this where you make those corrections or do we do that somewhere else? Thoughts? Okay, so I see a no, we don't do an APR update. All right, let's see. Actually, yes, that's another thing you could do through your APR update. So if you notice, oh, some of my information is different than it should be, it's maybe incorrect or inaccurate, and I need to change that. This is your opportunity. Once the APR updates are done, that's your answer. There is not a way to go back and change it. So if you put in 999, or if anything needs to be corrected in Section A, this is your only opportunity. Now, what about if all your information was correct and complete? You did not use 999 for anything. Will you also, though, need to submit an APR update? I promise there's no penalty for right or wrong answers. Maybe. We'll also take maybes. Let's see. No, you do not need to submit an APR update. If all of your data was reported correctly, and if all of your data was complete, then you do not need to do an APR update. If you're unsure, please reach out and ask. We would much rather you reach out and ask if you need to do an APR update than not submit one. The deadline come and go, and us have to then reach back out to you to try to get one. So APR updates are due October 27th. You can turn them in earlier than that, but that's the latest they can be turned in. Okay, so you are going to email those to oie@seiservices.com, and you're going to CC your program officer, Donna Sabas-Burns. I'm going to put the form that you're going to use, and we'll talk about it, over in the chat box so that you will have that as well. Possibly it's taking its time uploading, because why not? There we go. So that'll be uploading over into your chat box there, and you can download it. I'll also email it out to you. Remember that you have to do it for all those measures that you reported as 999 or that have incorrect data. And then also, if you did not complete the Section C tool as part of your APR, we do encourage you to go ahead and complete that now. This is what that form looks like. It looks just like your Section A that you did previously. And you'll want to remember that when you complete it, you're going to fully complete all this quantitative information and provide an updated explanation of progress. So don't just put in the data, update that explanation of progress as well, based on this new data that you're submitting. Does anybody have any questions about the APR updates? And like I said, you can unmute and ask questions. You can pop them in the chat, because I know that was the first APR y'all did for your DCE grant. So this will be your first APR update as well. All right, looks like so far no questions. But if for some reason you change your mind, let me know. All right, then we'll move over to everyone's other favorite topic, budget. I know I'm starting out with all the really fun things to keep you going. So budget reminders, we are starting a new grant year. Your current grant year ends September 30. Your new grant year will begin October 1. And so there's some definite things you should make sure and do as you transition from one grant year to another. The first being, look for your grant award notification, also often referred to as your GAN. Where do you find that? In G5. Okay, it's not something that's emailed to you. It's not something that's mailed to you. You have to go and get that out of G5. So you'll log in and be able to access it there and download it. Carefully read that GAN. You want to make sure that it has the correct project director on it, that it has your correct level of effort. And by level of effort, I mean how much time you're going to be spending on this project. So it'll say, 20% of your time, 5% of your time, whatever that might be, and that's correct. If you're on more than one grant, as I know a couple of the project directors are, remember that all your levels of effort across all your grants should not total more than 100%. I know that many of you are giving 110% of effort. However, you can only charge 100% of effort. So all those percentages can't total more than 100. And then make sure your contact information is correct. This is what the Department of Education has as your contact info. So if email or mailing address or any of that is incorrect, you'll want to make sure that's corrected, because that's what Donna uses to reach out to you. So very important. And then read down through what appears to be the legalese portion, because that's where you may find any restrictions that have been placed on your project. And you want to make sure and know about that. Okay, so read through that entire GAN. As you're reading through it, if anything is incorrect, then you will want to reach out to Donna to get that updated. As well as if you have questions, if anything looks confusing on there and you're like, oh, I don't know what that means, I don't know why that's on there, reach out and ask. And that we're here to help with that. In particular, if your project director is incorrect, know that your project director is the only person that Donna can communicate with in regards to your grant. So if that's wrong, that's going to be a real hiccup in the works. So if you want to submit a change in project director, you're going to submit a signed letter on organization letterhead that indicates who the new project director will be, their contact information, their level of effort, and also include their resume and when that change will take effect. Donna will email you back letting you know she has received that and it has been changed, because she makes those changes in G5. You will also want to notify us at the TA team so that we can update the email list. But Donna is the one that makes that approved, changes it in G5, and makes that official. All right, any GAN questions? Okay, then the next step, you got your GAN, so you're good there. Then it's time to look at your budget revisions. You're all required to submit a year 3 budget revision. The reason for that is because at this point, this is your last year of your DCE grant, or for TEDNA, I know you're moving into a no-cost extension. So this one slide won't be applicable to you, but for everybody else. And so you need to put forth how you plan to spend your funds for this final year. That will include any carryover you have from years 1 and 2. We have a form for this. I'm going to pop it in the chat box. And as I'm doing that, remind you that it's going to be due November 17th. I'll send out a calendar reminder to help make sure that everybody knows when that is. And then I've put the required form in the chat box so you can download that. Again, I'll also email it, but that way you have it right now. It looks just like this. If you have other OIE grants, you've probably used this before. But basically, you're just going to be inputting your year 3 budget under current performance period, any carryover you have from years 1 and 2 here, and it will auto calculate your full year 3 budget for you in this 3rd column. You'll put any changes you want to make to your budget here in this first green column, and the second green column will auto calculate your new budget. All right. I'm going to go live to that form now, just because I want to make sure that since this is many of your first times using that form, that you really get a good look at how it works, and show you a couple of new features that even if you've used the form before, will be new for you. So here is, oh, There we go. Here's the form live. You're welcome to pull it up on your own computers as well. I'll make it a little bigger here. Try not to be too much of an eye test for you today. So as you come in, you'll see there are 3 tabs in this spreadsheet. The first being the actual tool, which is what you'll complete. And then we have some things we've added this year. So we added one tab that has directions just to kind of show you where you see that neon yellow. That's where you put information. Because there's often some questions about, oh, well, you know, why can't I type in this column? Well, because it has formulas in it. It's going to auto calculate for you. So if you were to type there, it would destroy your formula. And then your budget would not add up appropriately. So anywhere that it's neon yellow here, that's where you're going to be entering your info. There's also some little reminders. So anywhere you see this little caret in the top right corner, that's where we've popped in like a helpful tip or reminder. So like this is a little tip on how you can add more rows. There's little tips about like what your current performance period budget would be. Those are all throughout. And then the third tab is an example. This is not necessarily going to exactly match your project because it's a generic example just to show you what it would look like filled in. And so I think it's just a nice way to be able to look and see like, oh, I wasn't sure like where I should type that. This is where you should type that. You can kind of see how that would look. In particular, notice that for personnel positions, you'll notice the FTE, so the level of effort is indicated for like the project director on this example is full-time versus the outreach coordinator is half-time. You'll also notice here in the budget changes column, if I wanted to take away an amount. So in this example, I was taking away $20,000 from the outreach coordinator because I was moving them from a full-time to a part-time position. So I entered a negative number there to take money away from that existing category and get my new budget. Whereas with my project director, they got hired in at a higher pay rate than expected. So I'm increasing. So I just left it as a regular number. So just little things like that that you can see in the example. So if I go back to the tool, again, it still has all those little reminders in there. Things like remember to put in explanations. So if you add or subtract money from any line, make sure that there's an explanation as to why here in your narrative column, column H. The better job you do providing those explanations now, the more likely your budget revision is going to be approved and approved quickly. If you choose not to put in explanations, then often Donna's going to have to send it back to you and ask, oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And it may still ultimately be approved as you submitted it, but it's going to take a lot longer and it's going to take a lot more work on your part and a lot more work on Donna's part. So save both of you some time and some effort and put good explanations into those rows now when you submit it versus later. Do know that those cells expand. So don't feel like you just have that one little spot. They expand. So you can type to your heart's content. All right. The other tip I'm going to give you on this is sometimes people will, for some reason, save this as a PDF before you send it back. If you save it as a PDF before you send it back, sometimes it cuts off part of your narrative, particularly if it, is a longer narrative. Just send it back as an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to be easier for you. So just a little tip. I know people love PDFs and PDFs are lovely. However, it often cuts off part of your explanation and then we can't see it. So just send it back as an Excel. The other thing to denote that sometimes happens is that people will just leave the word expenditure here. That's just a placeholder. Please put in what your actual expenditure is. Because if you send it back and it just says expenditure 7 times under personnel, it's super confusing. So actually write in your expenditures. And again, if you go to the example, you can see what that looks like. But I have repeatedly gotten some in that just say expenditure, expenditure, expenditure. I don't know what you're actually talking about. Any questions on the budget form? All right. If, as you're working through it, as you're working on your budget revision, you have questions, reach out to us at the TA team. We are happy to help. We can answer questions via email. Sometimes people will want to hop on and actually go on Zoom and we can walk through your budget with you. Whatever is helpful, we are here to help with any of that. The other thing to remember, now that we're just talking about budget, just a general budget thing, is remember your indirect cost rate here. This is where you input it and then put how much you're going to claim. If your indirect cost rate has expired and you need to submit the new one, make sure to email that in to Donna, because if she doesn't have your updated indirect cost rate paperwork, then you can't claim indirect cost. And so you don't want that to be the case. So make sure that you send in that updated paperwork. And I say that because a lot of folks, your rates update over the summer, often around that June, July time period is when you get your new ones in. So if you just got a new one in, make sure you send in a copy of that to Donna. All right. Any budget questions before we head out to other things, whether it's about the budget revision or budgets in general? All right, checking the chat. I'm not seeing anything, not hearing anything, so we'll keep going. Our next topic here, I find the most fun out of all of our topics today, program sharing. I would just love to know what's happening in your project. So I know I got the opportunity to visit with all of you as we were starting the year and hear a lot about what's been going on previously with your projects. But now we're entering into the new year, as well as, Donna and Olani weren't necessarily part of all of those conversations. So I'd love for us to be able to go around and just kind of share as we head into this new school year, as we head into this next year of your project, what's going on? How's it going for you? Would anybody like to volunteer to kind of share about what's going on with your project first?
Yeah, don't be shy.
Yeah, good morning. With passages, I was new to the no-cost extension, so we're there. So with the no-cost extension, I still do the budget revision.
Oh, I think you're
Correct.
talking about your regular NYCP project.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, and that's the one that the next talking circle will be on.
Okay.
Sorry, I know it's confusing when you have
ahead,
so many
yeah.
OIE grants and they have similar names.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
confusing, especially this one because it is labeled NYCP
Yeah.
DCE. You'll see the dash DCE, and that's of course the data extension grants, but oftentimes it looks just like a regular NYCP, so easily confusable.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
and that's why I saved y'all's budget form as DCE to help make it a little easier, because I know some of you have NYCP budgets and DCE budgets.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pick on Michael. Michael, you started to say you're going to be sharing something at NIEA. We're going to be there too. So my whole discretionary team will be there along with Sarah. Alani, are you going to be there at NIEA? No.
Alani's going to be on vacation.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't blame you there. Yeah, if just to let everybody know that we will be there. So if you see us, come join and look in. I think our presentation's on October 5th. And so come hunt us down and say hello. But yeah, Michael, I'm going to pick on you.
Thank you, Donna. I'll keep it short, but there's some exciting developments, and I hope I don't in any way misrepresent any of the folks that I'm going to be highlighting. This amazing effort, let's just begin by saying this is an amazing effort on behalf of OIE, and as we begin to embrace the unique opportunity to advance proven practices, database driven practices. And I would like to point out that we work collaboratively with some great people in carrying out this research agenda. For example, ACT is one of our partners with NYCP. And as we know, ACT has a very strong, rigorous research aspect to their work. And that's what they'll be presenting on during TEDNA's annual meeting. And we're looking at it, and I'll backdrop just a little bit. We got hampered with data collection, particularly with ACT, because so much of data collection required that we be in the classrooms and collecting data from the students, and that didn't transpire during the pandemic. However, ACT was able to continue giving attention to the need to asking a question, what's going on with our youth and how are they experiencing this pandemic, and what are the results of looking at that research. And so we'll be presenting a little bit about what happened to our youth throughout this critical period during the pandemic. Second, we collaborate with ADI, and ADI is Academic Development Institute, and looking at yet another incredible aspect to carrying out this work, and that's our engagement with the communities. And we know how important it is to work directly with our students and their families and all of that structure, but ADI continually pulls forth what we call, or brings forth an important story about how we do that, how we consult with our students and families in our community. And finally, there's another exciting aspect to this research that is evolving that we want to be able to promote, and that is the quality of our program is really defined by the personnel that we have and their background. And we're finding, as we might all assume, that the best programs or the most impact that we're making is when we're able to hire personnel from those communities who know those students, who know those families, who know how to navigate the community. And when it's possible, they when they're put in that position, it's pretty exciting to see them gather the stories that are most important in terms of the voices of the students and the voices of the parents. Because the students and the parents may not be all that comfortable talking to people that they don't know and aren't familiar with, and have no idea about why they're being quizzed about what they're experiencing. I don't know if any of this made sense, but I can tell you that we're very excited about getting our head around three things. One, looking at the quantitative data that we're able to collect through ACT and the qualitative information that we're able to garner with agencies like ADI, and then to be able to embrace this beautiful world where the communities know that they have a powerful story that needs to be documented and it needs to be shared. And I think TEDNA, I'm committed. TEDNA is excited to work and collaborate with their partners on this call in advancing a very sophisticated approach to disseminating this information and how we do that collaboratively. So we're making an awkward attempt to provide some early results of the research that we've been conducting. But I can tell you that Quentin's position is we want to do it collaboratively with all of our partners and learn from you, as well as share what we're gaining in terms of the insight we've garnered through this research so far. I'll just pause there, and hopefully that gave us a quick update, Donna. There's so much more that we can share, but I don't want to dominate the time here.
We appreciate that. I think that was a perfect thing to start with. Excited to hear more.
Right on.
And I'm saying I'm willing to assist in picking on people just because I know what some of you are doing. If you need a little nudge.
I'll go. This is Michelle Parker, and I am joining you all from Winnebago, Nebraska. I work for Ho-Chunk Community Development Corporation, and I am the project director for our data collection grant. We are actually working with a cohort of individuals that participated in a college career oriented project called Native Students College Vision Quest. And we are working on targeting individuals that participated in the activities during that time. And there was a lot of things that we are gathering as far as information goes on the what I'm hearing, their experiences in those events and activities. There was a curriculum that was utilized with, I believe, 5th through 8th graders called Believing the College Dream. And that was more of like a college prep course curriculum that just engage the students in forward thinking of higher education after they get out of high school. And alongside of that, there were activities that were more career oriented. For example, they did a beekeeping training or seminar with the kids. And so we're asking, those students that participated in that, their feedback on that. A lot of the of what Michael said was, it's almost similar to what we're looking for, especially on the qualitative side of things, doing the focus groups and interviews with students and their parents, and really trying to gain their perspective on the types of things that are available to them in the community and how we can be of better service in that regard, especially when it comes to the education side of things. And one thing that I'm learning in this, unfortunately, I was not a part of that original project, but coming into this, I was on the outskirts. I partnered minimally with the projects on a few of the events, so I know a little bit about them, but I'm learning a lot myself just being project director of this actual grant project. The data collection piece is how we can better partnership with, we're a small community, and one of the things I'm learning in that is the partnerships that involve touching the students and their families, most importantly their parents, and getting them involved in some of the things that require their participation. For example, the FAFSA stuff, for just really getting them to know what those are, and making them aware that a parental engagement in your student's life at an early age is very important for them. And I think in order for us to partner with other entities in the community to better deliver some of those services is something that I think we're learning on the qualitative feedback. It's just, something that you can't find out when you're giving them a questionnaire to fill out that already has questions designed for that. So this year we're actually focusing on, we're in our 3rd and final year for this data collection, and just trying to recruit more of those students that are now in high school in that cohort, and just really kind of pull up, we need more information from them, and just, trying to get the data collection trend going moving forward. I don't think this is something that I personally will not stop doing in anything that I do. I actually am a strong supporter of data collection, and in this realm, I don't think there's a lot of data collection in our community when it comes to the career and higher education side of things. I think from my perspective, it's really helping me as a project director and partners with other entities in the community really focus on how valuable data collection is, and being able to measure something over a course of time, not just for, this grant period. I want to be able to continue that moving forward, not just with anybody that participated in the original project, but maybe some of the practices that we're doing now just with data collection. I think it's something that we need to continue community-wide when it comes to the education of our students in the school. So there's some things there that I'm going to take with me beyond the years of this grant, and just start, You know, if we want successful students and families to be successful at helping them get there, we have to really know what we're measuring and be able to tell that story and reflect it, you know, the ups and downs of it all. So I hope I said that for people to understand, and
We
by all
love
means,
what
ask me
you
questions
just
if you
said,
want.
Michelle. That was great, really. Mike, this is Michael. Loved it, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I love hearing sustainability or what goes beyond the grant when it finishes. That's great.
All right, we have 3 others. Glenda, would you want to share about what y'all have been doing?
Yes, we are tracking our students. We'll find out where they went. We have some cohort groups that we're also tracking. So my story is similar to Michelle's. We're looking at college and career readiness and to find out where our students went and what they're going to be doing and how they performed in the schools. We are a pre-K through 8 school, so the students will go into different schools. So we'll have to locate them and get a survey to them to find out where they are and what they're doing and, you know, go from there. But we are looking at college and career readiness and excited to see what the results will show.
Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you.
All right. Scott, do you want to share what y'all have been up to?
Yes. So my project is called the Pim Pop Pete, the New Road project. And basically, we are pretty much toward the end of our data collection. We've developed the surveys. It's great that we did an 8th grade promotion survey on top of also doing the 12th grade, the graduation, to see what programs and services that we're offering they've participated in. And we're currently tracking those programs and how many students are attending and what programs are successful, what they like. We're able to like restart some things that were not, we weren't allowed to do because of COVID. One great thing was our Karuk Youth Leadership Council. So that has spread to all 3 of our service areas with all the high schools and 8th grade students as well, kind of bridging between the high school and the middle school. And we have 160 miles of service area in very rural Siskiyou County and Northern Humboldt County. So this has just been a great way. We did a summer youth gathering as well. We did math and science camp again for the first time in person. So we did have a fire that, interrupted one of our service areas with this camp, but things, we're taking that data that we've collected and we're seeing what leads to success for our students. And it's really great to see that. And we also have one of the big goals is we have a full staff now, a full team, which was extremely difficult during COVID.
Yeah. No, and it's very exciting that you finally have all your positions filled and everybody
Yes.
on board. All right. And then how about Leanne?
All right. So we actually conducted some small focus groups. That was done prior to me taking this position and kind of taking on this grant. So we have that data. And then recently I just acquired data from our school district. So we just got that data and myself and our data coordinator are kind of looking through that right now. The cool thing about our grant is our students, when this program was running prior to the data collections part of this, they were in middle school, and most of those students are have graduated now out of high school. And so we're trying to kind of track how our program affected those students as they continued on through their high school. And then what are they doing now? So we're kind of looking at a couple of different things. We're looking at transcripts, we're looking at the type of classes that they engaged in while they were in high school. And so we are in the process of discovering all of that wonderful stuff. So
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I know you've just hopped into the DCE fund recently.
Sounds like you got your work cut out for you.
yes, trying to learn it as fast as I can.
Absolutely.
Well, anything we can do to assist, let us know.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody kind of sharing what you've been doing with your projects. It's super helpful, particularly as we go along, and hopefully that as we continue having these conversations, as you can kind of see from everybody talking, while you're all doing different things, there's a lot of similarities. And so hopefully as you may hit some challenges, we can brainstorm as a group. As you have successes, lessons can be learned across all the projects and really work together as a cohort of grantees. So kind of the last big topic that we wanted to talk about today was to actually talk a bit more about the different parts of the DCE grant. So I know many of you were not necessarily the one who entered into the original agreement with the department. It was something that maybe you got tasked with later, or switched out with someone. So then you all of a sudden had this DCE grant to run and try to make sense of. And it is laid out very differently because it was done as a cooperative agreement instead of a traditional grant. So know that most of you are in that same boat where you were not the one who started the DCE project, and now you get to take it through the finish line. So we really thought it would be helpful to run through some of those key components and what those actually mean, what they could mean, what questions you have about them. So the first thing being ongoing and timely communication. So when you read through your cooperative agreement, it says that we're going to have, two-way ongoing timely communication. And we know that's something that was not happening quite as much toward the start of these projects. And so that's something we really want to focus on as we enter into this last year, is making sure that we have ongoing communication. And primarily we'll be doing that through talking circles. So again, you can always reach out throughout the year, but we want to make sure and have regularly scheduled talking circles. So you have this opportunity to get information. You have this opportunity to have conversation with Donna, with the TA team, and with your peer grantees. So you'll see that we're going to be getting those scheduled and sending out some calendar invites for those. The other thing are the annual performance reports. So it is a requirement that you do that. I know that in the first year of the project, that wasn't something that you were asked to complete. And so many of you were a little surprised then when we discussed the annual performance reports last spring. So I don't want that to come as a surprise this year. You will be doing an annual performance report this coming spring. So it'll be typically in that same time frame, that April-May timeframe, and we'll get a due date to you as soon as possible. But just so that you can start thinking about and preparing for that in advance, know that you'll be doing that again this coming spring. And then the next one being to really make sure that the fiscal office as well as the program team understand that the fiscal year 2015 NYCP grant and the things that were done under that grant have to remain very separate and apart from the things that are under your fiscal year 2019 data collection extension grant. And really the focus there being your NYCP original grant was all about providing services to students. And it was all about direct student services. Your current data collection extension grant is all about evaluation project activities only. So there are actually no funds in this current grant for student services. It's solely for the data collection, data analysis, and evaluation piece. And that can sometimes, again, be confusing because some of you have other NYCP grants as well. But just really making sure that both your fiscal office and your program team understand that delineation between those projects that have the student services and this project that's solely about the evaluation piece. Any questions so far? Kind of pause halfway through our list of fun. All right. So our next kind of piece that was in your cooperative agreement was that there was a requirement for memorandums of understanding. So you were asked to have MOUs or a similar type of document. You know, you might call it an MOA, you might call it a contract, whatever type of document you use, that you use that to enter into agreements with each partner that you were going to partner with for your evaluation extension. So for instance, you know, Michael was talking about that they have partnered with ACT. So they would need to have an MOU or some other sort of document entering into an agreement with ACT and how they're going to take part in this project. I know some of you have partnered with universities and you're using some of their evaluation team or some of their folks to help you with your project. Great. But just making sure that you do have those MOUs or contracts in place and signed and that they're up to date. Sometimes it's easy to let those kind of get out of date because you're so used to just continuing with it. So making sure that those are all up to date and intact. And knowing that while you aren't required to turn them in annually, that OIE can ask for them at any time. So you always want to make sure that they are at the ready. The last two are the ones that I really hope to have a little conversation about today. So one is, there was a requirement in your cooperative agreement about sharing results. And it stated to openly license to the public any grant deliverable that is created wholly or in part with department competitive grant funds and that constitutes a new copyrightable work. So in hearing that, and I know some of you may not have even seen that or taken note of that in the original agreement, but as you're kind of thinking about that sharing results and really making anything like that public as a new copyrightable work, do you, as you think about your project, have any resources or tools that you think would fall under that category? And I'll kind of momentarily stop share so we can chat about that. Are you thinking you have items that would fall under that or not so much? And again, there's no right or wrong answer. I just love to have a little thought around it.
We do our own youth risk behavioral survey here in the community, and we are actually working on a publication to share. We've been doing that since I believe 2009. And it originally had been a grant with the Winnebago tribe that we administered and required us to do the same thing, share the results. And since we're continuing the YRBS without indefinitely, it would be something where we may include that some of the information that we're collecting with our youth risk behavioral survey results. And the target audience we're looking to share those results would be obviously it would be project partners, maybe department head directors for the Winnebago tribe, but their tribal governing body. But we're looking at finding ways to share snapshots of some of that to the public, to the parents. And but you know, there's some things there, I think, you know, when it comes to sharing with our constituents, we have to really be mindful of what we're sharing, because you know, it'd be something that could be shared on a website. So that's, I think, one of the things with what I'm working on is we're contained within a sovereign nation, and basically our tribal governing body probably will need to approve us sharing some of that information. I think that's, I don't want to say it's a barrier, but it's something that we have to consider when we're going that route. We do have a lot of valuable information, but I think when it comes to sharing the data that we collect through this DCE project, I think it's going to be helpful and kind of tie some things together in general conversations about things that we offer in the community to our kids.
Yeah, well, and I think you hit two different things that are important for us to think about. One, that survey, I think, brings up a good point that y'all came up with that survey in 2009 under a different funding stream. So that would not fall under this sharing results requirement as far as the copyrightable work, the actual survey. Whereas if it was something where you had created that survey with these DCE funds, then it would be expected that you would put that survey as far as a tool, not necessarily the results, but as a tool out as a product of this particular grant. But since you're just using a tool that you already had, that would not necessarily fall under this like new copyrightable work piece. I think that's definitely one thing to think about is, yeah, the tools that you're using, were they created with your DCE funds and under that funding stream or under your NYCP funds, or is it something that you already had existing? And then as you talk about the actual results, so the data that you're getting back, that actually leads us into that final bullet. So I'll kind of pop it up so everybody can look at it. Are the 3 deliverables of the project. So there are 3 deliverables that are expected out of this particular grant in particular, one being a final research-based technical report, one being a presentation of those results, and one being a non-technical public-friendly summary of the research and results. And so, yeah, the thing that I think maybe a good thing about for everybody there that you brought up, Michelle, is really that while it's an expectation of the grant that you provide these deliverables, you have to kind of forward think to the fact that, yeah, your tribal council may really want to have that review and approval process in place prior to you then delivering those deliverables to the department. So you may need to back time plan for the fact that you'll have to get some of these things reviewed and approved before you can actually then provide them to OIE. Because you want to make sure that whatever organization you're part of, whatever nation you're part of, whatever kind of the structure of your community and your organization is, that you're following all of those protocols and are in compliance and just making people feel comfortable. So yeah, very good points.
I do have a, so, you know, on the, I forgot to touch on, we did have, an online questionnaire developed, to disseminate among our students. Are you talking, would that be, I guess, would that be a copyrightable?
Yeah, and that's one of the things like we were kind of thinking through. So technically, I think, yes, that would be considered, you know, a product that was created with these funds and therefore would need to be made available. And I think we would just as a group need to think through, then how would we make that available? You know, what would constitute making that publicly available to meet that requirement and still be, again, comfortable and appropriate.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, like I said, and that's why I thought, you know, let's just kind of talk some of these through because they are a little bit ambiguously worded. And so, you know, love to hear the feedback from all of you about what are those things that we all need to be thinking about and what were you kind of hoping might be what would work for certain things as we kind of finalize those details. Any feedback is great. Does anybody else have any thoughts, whether it be about those sharing results or those 3 deliverables? Ideas, thoughts, concerns, those are always valid as well.
But there's so much, Sarah. This is Michael again. And I think in those deliverables, there's a really exciting dialogue that we can have in terms of how we present the technical report. This is very important for us all to embrace. We should know that there's an established template or outline that you often see in technical report. And you get the feeling by following that template or that outline that it's very Western oriented. It's the kind of information that you would see in what you call rigorous research publication. But we have a lot to say about that in terms of the kind of methodologies that we advance. For example, one of the approaches that we had in terms of conducting this research was to approach it from a strength-based asset-oriented perspective.
Mhm.
Simply, this is where we begin with where we are doing things right and why that work is being successful. That was the key of looking at what we were doing in terms of our Native Youth Community Projects is what are we doing to advance college and career readiness and what's working for us? This may differ from what people might be familiar with, what's called a research problem. And that's often what drives a lot of inquiry. Why isn't something working? Or there's a problem. And we all know that really quite well because we prepare proposals to address those problems. But we enjoy a lot of success and we want to be able to embrace that. But it's very important for us to understand that we want not only to speak to our audience, but the audience broadly in the research community. And they have a language too that we need to adapt. And it's nice for us to continually speak the way that we're comfortable with, but we have to be able to translate it and share it with those various audience so they can resonate with it. I can guarantee you that very few people would really take our hard, our sincere effort to conduct research if we don't justify that our data collection, our data analysis were beyond reproach. Too often people might say, well, that's a nice answer that you got because you just chose the people that you wanted to get that answer from. You call it bias.
Right.
That all said, I think there's going to be a wonderful dialogue with this group about how we framed our research and how we embraced indigenous approaches to conducting this research. And we do that because we still have a lot to say about how we ask our questions, how we manage our data, how we analyze that data, and then finally, how do we present it? And I think that's going to be yet another exciting part with the deliverables, because sometimes the findings may not always be presented in what you call the narrative. It might be presented in our visuals. It could be artwork, it could be songs, it could be dances. It could be any way that we feel that traditionally we like to share information with our community in such a way that they receive it. But again, I think if we continue to have this meeting for us to look at and all agree, what is this template that we want to follow for the technical report? And what are we going to share with one another in terms of how we share this information with various audiences, our students, their family, those communities. And I'd like to make one more point about that in terms of, you know, I've done a lot of research over the decade. And one of the first things that I ask myself is, did the students read it? Have the students even been familiar with what we were trying to say? And I would say that much of my academic career, I've done a lot of studies, but when I asked that question, very few students even read that article, that so-called article that I published. But not this particular effort. We are dedicated to make sure that the students see their story and know that it's being shared and that hopefully it resonates with them. And I don't know how we do that, but I think there's an exciting circle that we could develop around talking about this technical report and how we might want to develop presentations that read an audience that should see this work. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and Michael, I really like your comment that, you know, thinking about it from an asset-based approach rather than coming at it from, oh, you know, we see these deficiencies. How are we going to fix these deficiencies? But really looking at it from that more positive asset-based mindset. And then the other thing I think in particular that, yeah, I would love to continue to discuss as a group as well is, yeah, that idea that maybe this final research-based technical report speaks more to that research community, to more that funding community that likes to see things in a certain very structured way. But then, yes, when we get to that other deliverable that says that non-technical, public-friendly summary of the research and results, to really think about how we can address that and approach that in a way that's going to really meet the needs of our individual communities and really resonate with them. And that doesn't have to look like just a shortened version of our research technical report. It shouldn't look like just a shorter version. So really thinking creatively about how we can approach that. So yeah, very good ideas. Other thoughts, questions, worries? I know there is still a lot on everyone's plates for this year of the project. Yeah, and we'll definitely continue talking about this piece, but like I said, I at least wanted to get the conversation going, get everyone kind of thinking about it and know that we're going to continue discussing it, and also provide some additional guidance in that area. So definitely, if you're like me and you get off of a call like this, and then tomorrow morning you have a brainstorm like, oh yeah, I do have a question, or oh yeah, I do have a great idea on that. Feel free to shoot over those questions, great ideas, anything like that afterwards. There is not a deadline on thoughts on this one. All right.
Donna, Sarah, did you figure out a regular time that you want this talking circle? We're
Yes. Actually working on that right now. So I should have for you probably in the next week or so. We'll get that worked out and we'll get some calendar invites out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's wonderful that at this time, now that we're coming to the point where everything is collected and you're getting ready for dissemination, this is the perfect time to be connecting with each other and building off those strengths and questions and, you know, creative thinking and presenting, and, you know, who knows, maybe all of you can do something together down the road together. Once we see the final reports and data, we'll be pretty surprised, and I think in good ways. You know, again, data collection in Native American Indigenous education has a tendency to be, in my opinion, looked at, as you spoke of, in the deficient perspective. But we keep pushing, let's do that opposite, let's flip that. And I love hearing the conversations that you're having, the concerns that you're having. And that's what this is about. So very, very good conversation. So I really appreciate your time and your thoughts in this process.
Well, and in that same vein, we'd love to know, you know, what are the ways that we can best support you this year? You know, we want to be transparent that we know we haven't been around quite as much at the very start of your project, that first year or so, but we are committed to really being there for you this year and making sure we have, like I said, that ongoing communication. So are there things, like I said, we're definitely going to be starting those talking circles on a regular basis. Are there other ways that we can best support you this year? And this may be one you need to mull over, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think because I believe TEDNA started there a year ahead, because most of the original NYCP 2015 grants ended with a no-cost extension. So this data collection started once that no-cost extension ended in 2019, whereas if there wasn't a no-cost extension, it ended in 2018, which is, I believe, what TEDNA did. And so, or it also, depending on the time frame of the grant and out years that you also requested. So there's a lot of different, and also I was onboarded, goodness, 2020 virtually, and I was living down the street from Alani in Oahu, and the program officer, Crystal Moore, at that time had inherited that we had a lot of turnover in our office, I think in the 2019, 2020 timeframe. And so I really apologize for lack of communication or anything that's happened in this year during the COVID pandemic. So we do want to make that up to you and provide you with whatever we can. So again, like I said, let me reiterate, if you guys come up with a topic that you would like to discuss and throw out to each other, please, we provide topics just because we see what's going on amongst all of you. But if there's something one of you has experienced, most likely the others are, and would love to throw it out there, just let me know and let Sarah know and Lonnie know her team.
Yeah, we are happy to, if there's something that we can help you find resources around or ideas, or, if you just want more discussion time on something, anything under the sun, better to throw it out there and we have to say, oh, that you found the one thing we can't do, than to not throw it out there. So, really mull that over, think about anything that might be helpful, any ways that we can best support you. And then I, in that vein, wanted to kind of share with you again, Donna's email address, as well as the email address for us at the OIETA team. And then also our link in case you want to schedule a coaching session. You can always email and we can schedule it that way. But sometimes it's nice if you do it through the link, you can just kind of schedule it yourself. You already see the availability and be done with it. So you have options. And that takes us to just, are there any other questions? I know we've had, some specific topics, but do any of you have any questions that you were hoping to get answered today or that have popped up for you?
I have a question. Is there any way you could go back to the last tab, just because I wanted to write down your guys' link for coaching sessions?
Absolutely. Let me go back and I can also get it over in the chat for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also these are recorded, as you know, and will be posted. Oh, we need to, I need to think about that with our webpage and where we would house the YouTube
we can
channel.
make a new accordion on the on the demo page, as
Yeah,
well as we already have a spot for it on YouTube.
right.
So typically the recordings go up on YouTube within about 48 hours. And then they're usually up on the website within about a week. And then you can watch them as many times as you like. All right, as you're thinking about if you have any other questions, I'm going to pop up. We have a little poll that we do at the end of every event. They're fairly short, fairly easy, but they give us some great information as we prepare for other events. As you're working on that, giving us a little feedback, I do have just a few last reminders here. So one being, we send out emails. There are two different kind of veins of communication. There's the official from OIE communication that comes from Donna as your program officer to your official project director. That is for the official communication, like when you get a new GAN, if there's a specific question about your budget or something, that goes from Donna to project director, from project director to Donna. There's a second line of communication, which is the more broad communication. When we send out invites for technical assistance events, when we send out general reminders about things, when we send out the OIE newsletter, all of that, that can be to your entire project team because it's not the official communication from OIE, it's the general OIE communication. If you would like to add any of your other team members to that communication, I just need you to send me this information as you see on the screen. And you can actually put it in the chat if you'd like. This is a small enough group. In some of our cohorts, if there's like 40 grantees, putting it in the chat's a little overwhelming. With just 5 of y'all, I can handle the chat, or you can email it to us at oie@seiservices.com. But just put your team member's name, role, and email address. And we can add as many people as you would like to that distribution list to get those calendar invites, the newsletter, that type of thing. And it's also just a great way to make sure everyone's getting the same info. And that if for some reason, maybe you miss an email or you miss a calendar invite, someone else on your team has it too. Or just as a lot of you have experienced, sometimes there's turnover. And so it's really good to not have just one person on that email list, but to have as many as possible. So like I said, just name, role, email address, either in the chat box here or via email, and I'll get everybody added. And that'll be nice because then when we send out our new calendar invites for the upcoming talking circles, all of you will be on it. Next thing is to just tell you about some of our upcoming events. Like I said, we'll be getting the dates and times set for those talking circles and sending those out. So keep an eye on your email there. And then as Donna talked about at the top of the hour, we also have what we call office hours. We do office hours every month. It's the fourth Thursday of the month. I will say September is not the fourth Thursday. We had a conflict, so it's September 22nd. But generally, it's the fourth Thursday of every month from 1 to 2 Eastern. And it's a come and go event. It's super casual. You can pop in at any point during that hour. So even if it's 1:55, you can hop in. It is open to all OIE discretionary grantees. So just know that you will be in there with maybe people from the PD program or STEP or NOL. And it's your opportunity to be able to ask the program officers, the TA team, or your fellow grantees any question you might like. So you might be asking for an official opinion from your project officer, or you might be crowdsourcing from your peer grantees ideas on ways to recruit students. But you're welcome to come and ask any question that you might have during that time. And if it's one that we don't have an answer readily available for you, then we'll get back to you after the event and we'll always let you know. So it's just a nice time to be able to come and network with your peer grantees, ask questions. And we also have a lot of folks who will just pop in just to listen because they get great ideas. So just know that that is always available to you every month, but it is also completely optional. So don't feel like you're required to attend. Some people have stressed, oh, you know, it doesn't work in my schedule. Don't worry, it is not a required event. It's just something available to you each month. I will say though, this is the one event each month that we don't record and post. And the reason for that is because it is informal and we want people to feel extremely comfortable asking their questions during this time. And so we don't want any pressure felt from it being a recorded event that's going to be stored up on the website for forever. So while you are under no obligation to attend whatsoever, this is the one event that we don't record and publish. All right. I think everybody's taken the poll, so I am going to go ahead and close that.
So there was a note that the Calendly link did not work.
Hey, well, that's a dilemma. All right, Olani posted our other link. You're welcome to use that, and I will figure out what's going on with the Calendly link. And when I send out the handouts that we shared in the chat, I'll send out that fix too. And then just our contact information again, and a little tip, because all of the program officers do manage multiple grant programs and get emails from any number of grantees, and same with the TA team, we work with all of the OIE discretionary grantees. If you just send it, yes, I try to remember each of you and what grant you're with, but it will make it exponentially faster for us to be able to give you a response and a correct response if you will make sure and include your grantee name. So for instance, like, you know, Cook Inlet Tribal Council or Karuk Tribe, if you include that and your PR number, it makes it so much easier for us to get you a response because we know exactly which grantee and exactly which grant program and cohort. Because even within programs, often there's different cohorts, or like I said, some of you have multiple OIE grants, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the answer that's correct for the actual grant you're emailing us about. So super helpful if you can pop that into any of your emails when you send them out to us. That is all the info that I had for the day, but we are happy to stay on and answer questions or chat with any of you. We do still have 7 more minutes, and we're happy to spend those 7 more minutes with you. But if you have other things you need to hop to, you are welcome to, and we appreciate you taking the time to come to your very first talking circle with us. And we look forward to a lot more great conversation and collaboration throughout the year.
And please, I really mean it, to come and say hello at NIEA if you are there. We'd love to meet you in person. And also on that last screen was a Twitter handle. Follow us if you haven't. We post some really, really cool stuff. Always looking to share news and education across Indian country. So please, if you find something that is really awesome and you found a big success that you want to share, please share that too. We love to share good things. So let us know and we'll be happy to spread the word as well. Goes both ways.